WQSU is proud to present the PA Pigskin Preview, WQSU's live sports talk show produced exclusively by Susquehanna University communication students. Tonight, we'll preview local high school and college football games live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Right now, it's the WQSU Sports Corner.
Welcome back for our last week of PA Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings on 88.9 WQSU. I'm Brai, Tate, and tonight we have a Susquehanna-packed show for you. We have women's basketball head coach Gabby Holko, followed by cheer captain Kaitlyn Wagner, then defensive backs Xavier Maple and Romero Lavallez, and ending our night with our roundtable discussion joined by class of 2025 graduate Jaxson Purnell. First, we will have an update of Todd Hummel's picks from the whole season. So if you were following along throughout the weeks, Todd Hummel from the Daily Item, every week we give him local high school matchups and high school football, wrapping up the regular or playoff bracket in District 4 recently. So last week, his picks went 5-0 once again. So overall, the whole season we gave him different picks. He's 33-5. So last week he picked Line Mountain over Montgomery, and Line Mountain won 20-14. And then the only playoff bracket in District 4 that's still going is the Class 2A championship. So Southern and Troy will play on Friday to wrap that up. And then Class 3A, Mifflinburg won over Montoursville 35-12, and then Jersey Shore at Shamokin. And Shamokin won that matchup 37-0. So once again, thank you so much to Todd for coming out every week to Buffalo Wild Wings with us. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt to introduce our first guest.
I'm with Gabby Holko, the women's head basketball coach. Gabby, thank you so much for joining me.
Matt and Brai, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's kind of go back to last season for a minute. 15-11, the landmark quarterfinal loss to Drew. Coming into this season, what were the biggest points that you wanted to get from last year into this year's team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big thing for us was we had to defend a little bit better than we did last season. I think by losing our best player, game one, Julia Roth, she had 25 points, 10 rebounds, went down with her ACL for the second time. That was a big loss for us. We graduated Caitlin Lynch the year prior, so last year was a very hard season in terms of being able to find where our scoring was going to be able to come from. Any given night, it was somebody different. Kenzie Salvaggi was a big help for that, and she is somebody that we relied on heavily in terms of scoring. Carly George, Zoe Maffey, Julia Pinkert, Sydney Wyatt, Annie Greek, Greta Servito, our returners, were kids that we just needed to rely on every single night. Can we get scoring from one or the other? But for last year, coming into this year, we needed to be better on the defensive end.
Now you're continuing to build something special here at Susquehanna. You had two big wins, which we'll get into in a little bit. What's the next step for this program? Yeah,
I think being able to understand that the teams that we are playing put their shoes on the same way, they practice the same way, they're putting 2 hours on the floor just as we are. So being able to say that we can run with those teams, such as your high teams in the Landmark Conference, the Scrantons, the Catholics, the Elizabeth Towns. So I think being able to take a next step would be being able to beat some of those top teams.
Now, how do you feel like the 2024-25 season laid out the foundation to go into this season and have success?
Yeah, I think a big thing, and big shout out to my assistant coach, Mike Matisse, and then Coach E, who is no longer with our program. But the biggest thing is we need to get a little bit more support in terms of the student athletes within our program. We have a great group of returners, and we say this is such a special year for us because we have a great group of upperclassmen that are experienced at the collegiate level, and then we brought in a really big group of first years that are also super talented. And some of these first years, 3 of them have gotten a lot of minutes in these first 2 games. So, well, 2 of them, one's injured. She will be getting a lot of minutes, but they have gotten a lot of collegiate experience right away. So just being able to balance that awesome year of just having the upperclassmen, the experience of the upperclassmen and the newcomers coming in.
Now let's go into this season. You start the season 2-0, a couple of really big wins at home in the tip-off tournament, 83-60 win over University of Mary Washington, 74-56 against number 24 ranked according to Division III College Hoops to Gettysburg. How big of a weekend was this for you guys to start the season?
Oh my goodness, it was huge. University of Mary Washington is always a fantastic team. Their coach has been there really long, and she does a great job. So coming into that game, we knew that they were a young team and that we did have the experience over them. So being able to just use our experience in our favor. And then going into the Gettysburg game, we lost to Gettysburg last year. I believe it was by 24. So being able to know this is a ranked team, and we didn't talk anything about rankings because preseason rankings to me mean nothing. So being able to know that Gettysburg is just a very well-coached team. They lost a couple of their returners, so it was going to be a battle. They play a very fast-paced style. They are not your traditional post players, so we were asking our post players to be around the perimeter a little bit more, and our girls just came out hot. Came out hot in the second quarter through the fourth. First quarter was not so great, but we ended up in the fourth quarter, shooting above 70% from the field. So I think there's a lot of bright moments for our team in these two wins, and I think it gives us a lot of confidence to feel good about ourselves.
I was just going to ask you about the scoring. 29 points, I believe it was, in the fourth quarter. How big is that for you? And especially, like you said, with the newcomers coming along and having girls like Annie Greek and Sydney White be able to hit from deep and really just solidify this offensive strategy.
Yeah, so I think a big thing that hurt us in the past last season was we weren't able to hit some outside shots. So we relied heavily on our post play. So being able to have your Annie Greeks, your Sydney Wyatts that can hit and knock down these outside shots, it releases that pressure on our post players. So we were able to, we knew that they were going to double down once we started killing them from inside the paint. And then Annie and Sid just being able to knock those down helped us create that separation from Gettysburg.
Now that this first tournament is in the books and your focus is heading into non-conference plays, you got the landmark play down the line. What is the focus for these coming games against non-conference opponents?
Every game is winnable. We can run with the best of them. We have Muhlenberg coming up here on Saturday, 6 p.m. tip, and a big thing with that is they're another Centennial school. So our non-conference schedule is nothing easy. I do not do our girls a favor whatsoever. I don't schedule games where I know we're going to win. I schedule games that are going to help us be prepared for the Landmark Conference. The Landmark Conference is a top 5 conference in the country. We send 3 teams to the NCAA playoffs every year, so we have to be able to take care of non-conference games. And if we do have a little bit of a slip up against one, it's just going to set us up better for when we reach landmark play.
Now, this weekend felt like we talked about another step forward to the process of where you want to get ultimately. But how big for you is it when you have the strong crowd, you have the bench fired up, and you got the girls really, throughout the time of that game, we had a couple of stoppages of plays because of challenges, reviews. How big is it for you to see that they are so involved in this game?
Yeah, the investment's there. The buy-in is there. I've had so many fans and our former assistant coach said as well, like every single kid in that huddle is bought in the energy, just as you said, from the bench. Our bench celebration, I was rewatching the film yesterday and today, and the bench celebrations are awesome. So if you can watch those all season, definitely it'll give you a laugh. But I think the biggest thing is replay's new this year in the Landmark. It has been in Division III last year, so that was our first time with it, and I was a little bit skeptical just because it is a big stoppage of play. Our third quarter was 30 minutes long, so that's a little bit of a buzzkill. So being able to know, can we keep our momentum? Can we keep the challenge on them? And as I said, Gettysburg is such a great team that they cut it within 3, they cut it within 4, and our girls just never took their foot off the gas. So being able to have that upperclassman leadership, I think, is really what helps us stay in the momentum of the game.
Now you're looking to go 3-0 for the first time, I believe, in the era of you coaching here at Susquehanna. What does that mean to you to get these girls on the right track throughout the rest of the season?
Absolutely. I didn't know that, so that's pretty neat. But I think, again, we are very much so like an us versus us. We'll scout Muhlenberg. The girls will have their scout. They'll know what they're doing offensively, defensively, individually, in terms of their matchups. But I think we put a very big emphasis on focusing on us and doing the little things that we know how to do properly, whether that is getting a defensive stop. We call 3 defensive stops in a row a kill, and we want 8 of those a game. So being able to make sure on the defensive end where we are at, because I think that will create our offense for us. We're playing a little bit more fast-paced this year in terms of pressing 94 feet, so that's causing a lot of turnovers for the teams that we're playing. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool, but we'll just take it one day at a time.
Now, finally, before we let you go, when you go onto the court in the 2025-2026 season, we talked about the fans and the support of this team. What do you want the fans of Susquehanna to know that you're going to bring to the court every single night?
Energy, effort, intensity, and just with this being our first home 2 games of the tournament, we put nothing out really on social media that we don't normally put out, and seeing the stands filled with the student section was unbelievable. And I know our girls are super appreciative. I know we as a staff are super appreciative of that. It just shows you what the community here at Susquehanna represents for all the sports. But it's great. So I would say effort, energy, and intensity. They're going to have a fast-paced game. It's not going to be a sit back, let's sit in a zone, play a slow ball game. It's going to be high scoring, high intensity on the defensive end.
Coach, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Wish you luck the rest of your season.
Thank you.
Love watching you play, love watching you coach and watching your players play
Yes,
and
absolutely.
everything. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later in the season. That was women's basketball head coach Gabby Holko, and when we come back, we're going to have Kaitlyn Wagner from the cheer team.
You're in the middle of the WQSU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to PA Pigskin Preview on 88.9 WQSU. I'm Brai Tate, joined by Matt Kaufman. We just had a Susquehanna women's basketball head coach, Gabby Holko, on. And now, love to introduce my co-captain and best friend, Kaitlyn Wagner. So, Kaitlyn is a cheerleader. She's a junior. And like I said, my co-captain. So first we're going to start off with, as a captain, what are your main responsibilities? What do you do? Let the people listening know what cheerleaders do and what you do both on and off the field.
So I think the most obvious thing people see is I'm calling cheers, watching the game, watching that offense, defense switch, gauging crowd reactions, things like that. But behind the scenes in practice, we're putting together stunts, we're having captains practices, we're sending out those small details, what to wear, where to be, things like that just kind of keep the team running smooth. We're communicating with coach and our teammates and kind of being that in between.
And then what does a game day kind of look like from your perspective or a cheerleader's perspective? You touched on obviously watching the game, watching offense, defense switch. What do you have to add to that?
Well, I get a lot of help. Shout out to my mom. We have people in the stands that help us because we can't always see from where we are on the sidelines. We have that wall of football players. So we definitely get a little bit of help from the stands. And then we have our list of cheers that we always reference. Our day starts bright and early, usually 7:30. I'm up getting ready. We're at the field by 10:30 to go over stunts, go over cheers, so we get a little practice with that. And then, yeah, we just head to the game, have some fun there. We get to walk through the tailgate.
Okay, and then what is something that people wouldn't realize or wouldn't see about a college cheerleader?
I don't think people realize how much we practice and the level of commitment we have. We're practicing 3 times a week. We got coaches practice, captains practice. We have early morning lifts. We have those 6 a.m. lifts that we all love.
This morning?
Yeah, it was a great morning. So I think I don't think a lot of people know that we lift in the first place, but then I don't think people see how often we practice. And then, of course, we have our entire Saturday is dedicated to those game days, either traveling to away games or like being at those tailgates bright and early. We're there after the game. So.
Talk about that lifting aspect, because yes, we get a lot of questions about that.
We do get a lot of questions about lift. I mean, personally, I like to work out over the summer too to keep us in shape, but then we also get those scheduled lifts. This season they're both in the morning, so we kind of have those customized lifts for us that focus mostly on what we need as cheerleaders. We just did some max squatting today, so that was really fun to see everyone else doing it, cheer each other on as a team.
And then what has been most rewarding about being captain this season?
I think the level of trust the girls put in us. I mean, obviously they trusted us enough to put us in this position in the first place, but they continue to trust us to make those decisions, to lead them. They're pretty much just following us. But then we also get that personal level of trust. I mean, there's always the trust. They're throwing us in the air. You gotta trust them to catch. But we get to be part of those personal aspects as well. And we're trusted, any issues they can come to us with. And I think that's really special.
Obviously, you're involved in other things on campus, have leadership roles and other things on campus. But how has being a captain shaped you into being a leader and even being on the cheer team in general and throughout high school and competitive cheer and everything? How has that made you the woman you are?
It's definitely helped me work on patience, conflict resolution. There are a lot of girls, we come from a lot of different cheer backgrounds, so we all have ideas and we like to keep it open. One of the nice things about our team is that we're always trying new things, we're getting creative. So there's a lot of ideas and just kind of managing those ideas, making sure everyone's heard, that we come up with a practical solution that combines all those ideas. That's definitely something I've learned, that open-mindedness and listening skills.
What would you say to any girls looking to join the team or any future captains? What's some advice you would give to either of them?
Make sure you keep that open-mindedness. Coming in, I started as a back spot. I was doing that for 6 years before Susquehanna Cheer. And I came in and the team needed a flyer, so I was like, okay. And I taught myself how to fly. It's definitely something a lot of girls do. They come in, even if they're still in that position they were to start with, we learn how to do other stuff to be more well-rounded. So I think that flexibility is definitely helpful if you're coming in. And for captains, I think it's also helpful just because then you can be where you need to be for your team.
And then explain those different positions. You said, I came in as a back spot, now I'm a flyer. Dumb it down.
Okay. So flyer is pretty much that top person. She's like the star of the show. She's the one you're watching flip around, getting stacked on top of people. The bases are the people below her. They're the ones making it happen, holding her up. And then the back spot, which is what I did, it's still, that position has my heart. I love it. They're the people in the back. They're helping the bases lift, but they're also there. People call them the lifeguards of cheer. So they're behind, just making sure that Flyer's staying safe, helping catch her, helping throw her.
I know we have talked about this, obviously, in our DEG runs and everything. Me and Kaitlyn like to put it in football perspective. So me and Kaitlyn will say that the Flyer is the receiver, the back spot is the quarterback, and then the bases are the line, of course.
That back spot's making all the calls.
Yes. What are some goals you have? Obviously, our season's ending. We have our last regular season game away at Moravian this weekend. What are some goals you have for the team the rest of the season, for yourself the rest of the season, or what were some goals you had in the beginning of the year? Like, did any of them happen? What are you still looking to achieve?
Well, I think at this point I'm looking to keep that consistency we've had the whole season. Just kind of keeping that energy up, those crowd interactions. I think we can get a few more stunts, some new stuff in there in the next week or two. But just kind of doing what we're doing and having fun with it and getting ready for next season.
So we do a segment called the Susquehanna Speed Run. So they're short, quick questions, quick answers, just like on our Instagram. I ask them questions every week, and they give me some answers. So the first one is, what's your pregame meal?
Pancakes.
Of course.
Of course.
If our team had a theme song, what would it be?
Rock That Body. I said it on one of the videos too.
Away or home games?
Home.
Really?
I love the energy of home games.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the bus rides for away games, but you can't beat the fans.
Who is most likely on the team to win the Hunger Games?
Allie. Yeah, she's clever and she's strong.
We talked about this. Flying, basing, backing. What's your favorite?
I love back spotting, but flying has grown on me.
Yeah. Who is the loudest teammate?
Brai Tate.
If you can't tell by the voice this week. Also, away games, we tend to stop at Dunkin'. What's your go-to Dunkin' order?
Pineapple mango lemonade refresher every time.
Describe just Susquehanna Cheer in one word, either the whole program or this team this season.
Resilient.
Favorite Susquehanna Cheer memory, either from this season or in the past, both, whatever you're feeling.
From this season, I would say the bus ride to Juniata. But I think the drive to Chicago for semifinals was definitely one of those top moments.
Me and Kaitlyn and another cheerleader went to the game in Chicago, the NCAA semifinals. So that was so much fun.
So much fun.
Froze to death.
But the car rides, they were good.
Funniest moment at practice this year?
This one might also need some explanation, but Chloe's head dive
I knew
off
you were
the
gonna
shoulder
say
sit, that was an interesting one. I think that video is also on our Instagram somewhere.
Yes. So we had girls stacked on top of each other, and we tried to put another girl on top of another girl's shoulders and then make her flip off of the shoulders. And she didn't really flip. She kind of did a swimmer dive in, face first.
We got her up there, had little trouble getting her down.
She was caught, though.
Yeah,
at the end
she
of
was
the day.
fine. Everyone was laughing. We were good.
Finally, do you have any pregame rituals or superstitions?
I don't. I used to, but not really. I mean, I eat my pancakes in the morning. I drink my Gatorade the night before. I like to visit the tailgate, of course, but I'm not as superstitious as I used to be.
That was cheer captain Kaitlyn Wagner here on 88.9 WQSU, and we'll be back after this short break.
Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome. Oh, guys, the voice. Just like Kaitlyn said, I'm the loudest. She said I'm the loudest on the team. So the voice is a little rough right now still from this weekend. Welcome back to 88.9 WQSU for the PA Pigskin Preview, our last show of the season. And we just had women's basketball head coach Gabby Holko on, and then we had Susquehanna cheer captain Kaitlyn Wagner, and now we are joined with 2025 graduate and former sports director Jaxson Purnell for our roundtable. Jaxson, do you have anything to say before we start?
Not too much. Happy to be back and be back on the WQSU airwaves, as it's been a little bit, but again, appreciate you and Kaufman giving me the opportunity to come back and get on, and just excited to be back.
Yeah. We're going to start with a team that I think you know pretty well, Penn State.
Oh, a little too well.
So Penn State just played against number 2 Indiana, so they were at State College. Indiana won this game at 27-24. Next they'll be at Michigan State. So first we're going to start with this Indiana game.
Yeah, they're actually replaying it right here at Buffalo Wild Wings on the TV currently on FS2, just for something to put on the TV. But yeah, Penn State's season has been over since, you could say the Oregon game, but I think more so the UCLA game. Getting upset in that manner after such a heartbreaker against Oregon really ended up costing them their season, I think, and also really cost, I think, James Franklin his job ultimately. I know he lost a couple games after that as well, but the UCLA game really ruined Penn State's season, and this game was just really a tale of how the season's gone for Penn State. They were in it all the way through. I didn't get to watch it, so I can't give too many exact details about the game itself, but they were in it all the way through, as evidenced by that 27-24 score. It came down to one of the last plays in the game where Indiana had an incredible toe tap touchdown to finish it off. And, it's just kind of how it is. So I think what's going to be key for Penn State is to see how they respond. They have a couple games upcoming here. You mentioned Michigan State next week, but then Nebraska and Rutgers to end the regular season. If they could wrap this up with 3 wins, get bowl eligible, kind of ride some momentum into the postseason, bowl season, and then into next year as they try and figure out who their next head coach will be, I think that would be the most ideal, best way that Penn State might be able to salvage this season.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it at the Indiana side of it, and I think overall they played a phenomenal football game. Here, some kinks here and there that they got to clean up a little bit, especially being the number 2 ranked team in the nation. But like Jaxson said, I mean, Penn State's season really was over. I think at that Oregon game, you kind of felt like things were going to start going downhill, and it's continued to show with Drew Aller, and then, of course, the unfortunate injury to Aller, taking him out for the rest of the season. And obviously, we'll see what happens with the draft coming up in April. But, I mean, Fernando Mendoza's been phenomenal. He leads the FBS in touchdown passes. He's been great. Again, Penn State coming into this game knew that this was going to be a challenge. I don't even know if they expected to keep it as close as they did. But I think Penn State's defense really stepped up when they needed to. I think Penn State's offense made some big plays when they needed to. But, again, they just couldn't get it done in the end. And unfortunately, because this was a game that would have really been a big upset win, especially, and I feel like, too, when you look at it on Penn State's perspective, it's been a rough year. You lose Aller, you lose Franklin, and, you lose that whiteout game that really seemed that turned their season around. And for Penn State, a win in this kind of caliber against Indiana, the number 2 ranked team in the nation, would have been huge, for sure.
I think another important thing to highlight, too, is obviously the season ended after that Oregon game, and then the upset loss to UCLA, but you lost Tony Rojas, their best defensive player, during practice for the season. Then to follow that up, as Kaufman just mentioned, you lose Drew Aller. So you're not going to win a lot of football games with I believe a sophomore starting quarterback. First time he's ever taken snaps pretty much at the FBS level, meaningful snaps. And obviously, the firing of your head coach is going to kind of just shift the locker room, whether it's positive or negative, you don't know. But all those factors going in just doesn't shape up for Penn State. And that's why I say, if they can kind of figure it out here, I think they've been getting a little bit better, kind of some closer losses here in recent weeks. I think they have a good chance to kind of not salvage their season. Obviously, a 6-6 record is not what they expected or what they wanted. But just give them a little bit of positive momentum moving forward, and until we see who that next head coach might end up being.
And talking about that positive momentum too, I mean, even though you didn't win this football game, you still kept it close with the number 2 ranked team in the nation. And I think that has to go into it, too, when you look at the fact of, you played a competitive football game. And that's really all you could ask for at this point. Grunkemeyer comes in to be your backup quarterback, a guy, like you said, hasn't played a lot of meaningful snaps. Drew Aller goes out with the injury. Now you're almost in like a sweat mode of trying to figure out what the next step is for this Penn State team. And I think on both sides of the ball that we talked about, offensively and defensively, they stepped up big time. They just couldn't get the job done in the end. But I think overall, there's definitely some positive to take out of this for Penn State fans, for sure.
Absolutely.
And Indiana picks up its first win at Penn State. I think I saw that somewhere, and I remember that was kind of the storyline, if you will, all week. And the Indiana coach said, well, this team hasn't played at Penn State. Let's go into NFL. So last Sunday, the Steelers were at the Chargers, and LA won 25-10.
Yeah, I've been saying it all year. I still think Pittsburgh is not the team that they were expecting to be with Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers has 2 more interceptions. Again, he continues. It seems like they just haven't found the connection that they were hoping for with DK Metcalf. Something that we talked about last year on the sports show a couple of times with Metcalf and what he was doing down in Seattle and what Rodgers was doing with the Jets. But it just seems like, again, that connection that you really thought would work out so well because, again, Rodgers MVPs, won a Super Bowl, Metcalf, one of the best receivers at the time in the league. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that DK Metcalf's time in the NFL is coming to an end and he's starting to get washed. I don't want to use that word yet because I feel like he could still go out there and be an incredible wide receiver. Not a top 5 receiver with the way that the league is now, but definitely a top 10 wide receiver, maybe top 15 if that. But this defense continues to struggle. I think Justin Herbert continues to show why he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. The run game with Vidal was huge. And again, Keenan Allen continuing to make plays. Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, another big day. Won a fantasy week for me again. So he's been a big factor. And I honestly think when they could continue to get guys like Ladd McConkey involved and you could use your run game and be effective and not get sacked 6 or 7 times, it's going to help you in the season. And especially when you get down to the late stretch of the playoffs and you're going to face teams, especially in that AFC East. I mean, Denver's a pretty good football team. Of course, you get Kansas City. And it seems like the Raiders are really just either a head coach or a couple of big players away from turning things around in Vegas. So I think the Chargers are up there with a lot of these teams. I mean, you just saw the Bills lose to the Dolphins. So, again, any given Sunday, really, and this Chargers team, they looks like a pretty good football team.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've always been a big fan of Justin Herbert, even going back to when he was in college at Oregon. And it seems to me that he's starting to really come into his own a little bit more. Not that he hasn't been, but kind of elevating his game to the next level. And I really just think the Steelers ran into that. I think if you're Pittsburgh, it's really just going to be the same tale that it's been the last couple of seasons. It's going to be an average football team. They're going to be a game or 2 over 500. They'll make the playoffs in one of the last seeds and then, beat first-round exits once again. So, that Steelers defense is just getting older, obviously with Hayward and Highsmith and T.J. Watt. So, they have the defensive pieces. I like their secondary a lot. They have some players in the secondary now. I know they got Kyle Duggar at the safety position, but it's once again that offense. They have not been able to find that quarterback answer since the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger and, kind of towards the tail end of his career as well. So the way I see it, the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to just kind of sit in that mediocre field, and until they find that quarterback that isn't a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, I don't know when they'll be at the level they were used to, winning 6 Super Bowls in their history.
And I think the hope for them at least is to have, Rodgers, kind of like he did with Jordan Love, was teach Will Howard a little bit, national champion quarterback out of Ohio State from this year's NFL draft. But again, I mean, he's not a guy either that really lights up the numbers. You had a quarterback who had Jeremiah Smith as a freshman standout wide receiver out of Ohio State, and then, his defense was a big part of it. Jack Sawyer was a huge part of that defense. I mean, really overall, yeah, Will Howard made the big plays when he needed to, but again, he was led by a lot of other star athletes around him. And I'm not saying Will Howard's not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Heck, he could be a great quarterback in the NFL. He could win 6 Super Bowls for all we know. But I really think that Pittsburgh's hope is that they're not going to have to draft a quarterback again for a while, and Will Howard's going to have the chance to learn from Aaron Rodgers. Whether it's Aaron Rodgers teaching him off the bench. If Will Howard comes in at quarterback, say next year, or we'll see what happens with Rodgers. But I can't see, if it continues to be this way, I can't see Rodgers playing another season.
And I was going to say, too, I've never been a huge believer in Will Howard either, even though he was at Ohio State last year. As you alluded to, he had all the pieces around him. He had that success formula, and we saw what happened. They won the national title. But look at that team again this year. They lose him. They have a young kid come in, and they're still number one in the country. So I think that speaks more about the program that it is Ohio State, their coaching staff, and the guys they're able to recruit and bring in, and they just kind of need just a solid quarterback. Now, again, not trying to diss on Will Howard here. He did his job. He went there. He did perfect in his role. But I just don't see him as anything more than maybe an NFL backup.
Then the other side of Pennsylvania, last night the Eagles were at Green Bay. Eagles won 10-7, was 0-0 at halftime. Defensive game. What are we thinking?
I told Kate Hovey, who is supposed to be on our show tomorrow night too, for those of you that want to hear a little bit more on it. But I told Kate Hovey, I said, I have a feeling this is going to be a game that we talked about on Thursday night. With that Raiders-Broncos game. It's going to be a very heavy defensive game, a game that we thought we would see a lot of offense with the way that Jordan Love could sling the football and, the weapons that Philadelphia has with Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley, of course, Dallas Goedert, who's had a great year again with Philadelphia. But it wasn't that way. It was a heavy, heavy defensive first half. And when you got to the second half, it still was that way. I mean, the final score, like Brai just said, 10-7. But I don't understand, and I think Troy Aikman put this perfectly last night. I don't remember word for word what he said, but what are you doing going for it on 4th and 6 with the game on the line? If you don't get it, you gave Green Bay an opportunity. And again, if Green Bay maybe decided to go for the Hail Mary instead of that 64-yard field goal, playing with the wind, knowing, he missed the first one when he tried it, probably wasn't supposed to, but he missed the first one by a good 5 or 6 yards. You go for it again. But I just don't understand how it continues to be the same struggle with Philadelphia. Devontae Smith continues to have a huge role. A.J. Brown can't be consistent, it seems like. Saquon Barkley's run game has been kind of in and out. He had the big game against the Giants a couple of weeks ago, had a big game a couple of weeks before that. Other than that, they haven't ran the football well. And that, I feel like, should be the identity of this team because, again, Jalen Hurts, he could throw the football, not as well. And the last thing I'm going to say about this team is they have to figure something out about the tush push. They had the 4th down play in the first quarter. It was clear that Dickerson jumped off sides or had the false start, and you didn't call it. And you have the 2 announcers calling it, and you have their rules analyst call it out. It's how could you miss it? And unfortunately, it's rough because, again, it's live. You can't tell it right away. But they're going to have to find a way to either fix it. You don't need to ban it. You just got to fix it.
And, I've never actually been as a Cowboys fan, I've never been a huge proponent of banning the tush push because, that was one of my favorite plays to run when I played high school football. But when it's that obvious, there is zero way that the lines judge should miss that looking down the line of scrimmage. There is no way. And I understand it's in slow motion, whatever, but they get paid to see when guys jump. They get paid to do that, and it was so clear how early their right guard and their left guard, left tackle, whoever it was, Mailata and Dickerson jumped right off. I could not believe that video when I saw it because, again, we've seen some videos of it, people complaining about it. A lot of teams don't want it around, and I never thought anything was too egregious. But last night, I think that has to be the icing on the cake for that play. I'm sorry, it has to be.
And I think another point too is, now that's 2 times in the last, I believe, 3 weeks that we've seen a play like that. You go back a few weeks ago, Giants-Eagles game, that fumble that Thibodeau stripped out. Play never was called dead until after Thibodeau had the ball on the ground. They don't call it. They missed a false start on the 4th down before that. It just continues to be not a problem, but it continues to be a nuisance to the NFL and especially to the fans. Even Eagles fans have complained about it. You got your own team's fans sitting there complaining like he's offsides, it's a false start, whatever the case is. Dickerson's face said it all. He knew he had the false start, and they didn't call it. And again, like you said, Jaxson, you said it perfectly. You get paid to call it. You can't miss flags like that because if you could call it, if you miss that one, but you call the one right after when the defender jumps off sides, you can't be. It's not like you're not seeing it. You're just not paying attention.
Exactly.
Apparently.
Exactly.
Then looking forward, the Steelers and the Bengals. 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Who do we like here?
Ooh, the rematch of the Yunk Bowl. This was a good one the last time these 2 teams played. I want to say Cincinnati takes this one again because I feel like this Cincinnati Bengals team with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Chase Brown, it seems like the offense clicks a lot better than Pittsburgh's does. And, again, the Steelers, we're hoping that they would have that big X factor with Rodgers and Metcalf, and they haven't had it. I think if DK Metcalf has a big game today, or not today, but this weekend, then Pittsburgh can win. Otherwise, I really think Cincinnati, I don't know if they're going to run away with it, but again, I think this is going to be one of those high-scoring games. Both defenses struggling. This could be another one of those 40-point games.
Yeah, for me, I want to go with Pittsburgh on this. I just want to see that defense kind of gel together a lot better than they have been. You know, they have the pieces on that side. Obviously, everyone knows about T.J. Watt. Everyone knows about Alex Highsmith. But you look at their secondary, and man, do they have a ton of names. Darius Slay, you have Kyle Duggar, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr., shout out Penn State there, Penn State alumni. They have the guys back there that should be able to handle the Cincinnati offense. So I want to go with Pittsburgh on this. But again, with how their offense is playing, it's going to be pretty questionable, and maybe Joe Flacco will be able to outduel Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, sorry, guys. My mic was off. And then Sunday night football, the Lions at the Eagles. Which one do you like?
Well, I said last week on the show that Packers-Eagles could be a really great game. It could be possibly the game of the year. I'm not going to say that this week because last time I said it was 10-7, the final score. But I do think this could be another one of those, up-in-the-air games. Detroit's got a really good offense. They've got a high-powered offense. They continue to play really good football with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams being a huge X factor. Jared Goff's continued to be consistent, and I think that's one of the things that this team was missing last year. It seemed like Goff had, those 4 or 5 games where he'd be really good, and then the 2-3 games where he struggled, and then the 3-4 games that he was good. But this year it seems like that's been that consistency. I feel like they finally found that groove that they've been waiting for. Gibbs and Montgomery are healthy. Gibbs, phenomenal week this past weekend on the run game. This Lions team, I think, doesn't blow Philadelphia out of the water, but I think Philadelphia still has too many kinks they got to figure out, especially in the run game. If they can't run the football well, they're not going to have a good day Sunday night.
Depending on how the seedings end up shaping up here at the end of the NFL season, this could be a preview of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
100% could be. And I like the Lions in this one as well. I just don't like what I've been seeing out of the Eagles offense. I don't think they've done nearly enough whatsoever. You go to the Super Bowl last year behind, record-breaking performance from Saquon Barkley on the ground, and it seems like you're barely running with him. As Kaufman, you kind of already alluded to that. So I like Detroit in this one. I actually do like them by 2 or 3 touchdowns even, just because I think the Lions offense will be able to kind of throw all over this Eagles defense. I do think the guy from Miami, Jalen Phillips, I think that was a good acquisition for Philadelphia, especially on the defensive line. But I still don't think their secondary is that strong, and I really think Amon-Ra might have a field day. Again, it depends what Jared Goff we're going to get. Are we going to get the 4-interception Jared Goff, or are we going to get 300 yards, 5 touchdowns thrown from him?
Yeah, I like the Lions offense. I like watching them. Now, Matt, there was an NFL head coach firing. I'll let you start.
Yeah, we fired Brian Daboll. I'm not going to lie, I don't like the decision. I really don't. I think this decision was made out of panic, it seemed like, for the Giants. And I think, again, another 2-7 season. Oh, no, here we go again. But for the Giants, for the front office especially, I feel like this was a big mistake. Your old head coach, your ex-head coach, decides they want to draft Jaxson Dart. Jaxson Dart's the guy. He's going to be the guy that's going to lead us to glory. He's going to be the guy that brings us to the promised land. Well, that wasn't the case because, again, Jaxson Dart now has been concussed 4 times, or in concussion protocol 4 times. And it seems like this Giants team has had no consistency. They had the 2 games that Jaxson Dart won early in the year, kind of like Daniel Jones did back in 2021 when he took over, or 2019, with the Giants. He won the game against the Buccaneers on the road. Then he won the game at MetLife against Washington. And then this year, Dart wins the game against the Chargers. He wins that crazy game on Thursday night against Philadelphia. But, again, Jaxson Dart and Brian Daboll had that really, really strong connection. That's now taken away. And I really don't understand the decision because your defense has been the issue. It's not your offense that's given up the 10-point-plus leads in the fourth quarter in 4 games this year. It's your offense. It's your defense. I mean, Shane Bowen, you go back to the game week 2 against Dallas, he's playing 8-10 yards off the ball, and they're going to go down the field. You got a kicker who could kick a 67-yard field goal. And then you got the game against Denver. You're playing 8 yards off the ball. Again, you got another great kicker down there in Denver. So it seems like the special teams, or not the defense has been the issue. They haven't fired Shane Bowen. Mike Kafka is going to be the interim head coach for now, and it'll be interesting to see who the Giants decide to go with at the offseason deadline of who they bring in. Personally, I'm thinking Lane Kiffin and John Gruden would be a great idea. I think those two specifically would bring back that old mentality of hard-nosed football, what the Giants did when they won the Super Bowls back in the day. The defensive focus. I don't think we need a coordinator as a head coach, and I think that's a big problem. And I said this about the Jets a couple of weeks ago. Aaron Glenn came in as the defensive coordinator, now a head coach. Robert Saleh did the same thing. You know, this offense for the Giants wasn't really the issue. Jaxson Dart needs to learn how to slide. That's the issue. The defense has been the problem. You bring in a defensive coordinator as a head coach, now you're only focusing towards the defense because the offense, Mike Kafka's got to go in too. And I have a feeling once his tenure as interim head coach goes, his job will be over with the Giants.
Yeah, once again, to me, it's just another example of a team giving up on a head coach way too early. You finally, get a running back that looks like he has the chance to really replace Saquon Barkley. You have finally find a quarterback that looks like he might be the answer for the New York Giants and, lead them to, perennial playoff positions upcoming. But you get rid of the head coach who was building a great rapport with them, and I just don't understand it. Nothing against the New York Giants, Matt, but I don't think they were exactly expected to win the division, go to the playoffs, win the Super Bowl this year. So what are you firing them for?
Yeah.
To me, I feel like they've exceeded expectations in my eye. It's in certain points. Maybe the record doesn't show that, but you have a guy like Cam Scott, who, of course, unfortunately went out with that horrific injury, and we won't see him play the rest of the season. But you have these pieces all of a sudden in place, and you have a guy like Brian Dable who has built that relationship with them, and all of a sudden, just like that, you're back to square one. I've never been a big fan of that, and who knows, maybe it ends up okay. Maybe they hire, the guys that you're looking at there, Kaufman in the offseason. But to me, I just don't understand why these franchises give up on these coaches so soon.
And one thing to add to that, too, is, like you said, they gave up on them. And this was an offense that did not score on the opening possession all season, really the last 3 years since Brian Dable took over as head coach. Jaxson Dart comes in and they score on the first possession 4 of the 7 games that he played. I mean, again, I just don't understand what Mara and the Tisch family and really Joan Shane didn't want to draft Jaxson Dart. And look what Jaxson Dart done. He has brought life to this offense. You're going to tell me you're going to ride with Russell Wilson all year, who can barely throw the football, it seems like, without turning the ball over. He can't run around in the backfield. I mean, Jaxson Dart is taking people's ankles left and right. Russell Wilson's just diving down to the ground.
And let's be real, they fired the wrong guy.
Absolutely.
If you're going to fire anybody, it should have been the general manager, Joe Shane. But again, it's just it seems like that's how these franchises have been operating. If you're not winning, what are you really doing? And I just don't know. I'm not in the position to tell GMs or owners how to do their job, but to me, you got to look a little bit more deeper than the record.
I thought that's all fans' jobs, no?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Maybe they'll hire one of you guys.
No.
I'll pass. I will pass.
We'll stick to this side of it.
I did see a graphic today. I think that was he has the most rushing touchdowns, Jaxson Dart, out of any quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
so.
he really, I mean, talk about exceed expectations, like you said before. He has exceeded every expectation. The Giants, like you said, they weren't expected to win the division. They weren't expected to light up the scoreboard every week. But when you beat a team like the Chargers, then you go on and you play a team like Denver, and you should have won the game against Denver. You probably should have beaten the Cowboys back in week 2 of the season. You could have probably beaten the Commanders in week 1. But when you look at this overall, and the Giants know this, and I have a feeling they'll realize this later on, they made a mistake. I don't even know if Joe Shane was the guy they should have fired either. I think when you look at the draft picks, you go get Abdul Carter, you trade up to get Jaxson Dart, who could be your real future quarterback in the NFL. I think he's done the right job. He's done the job defensively with the pieces and Brian Burns, keeping Dexter Lawrence there and Thibodeau and getting Carter and getting Dart. But it's the defense. I think Shane Bowen's got to go. At some point in this season, they'll realize that, hopefully.
And we are going to take our last break of the night, and when we come back, we will have our final guests on for this season of PA Pigskin Preview.
USU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to our final episode of the PA Pigskin Preview. I'm Brai Tate and joined by Matt Kaufman. We just had Jaxson Purnell on for our roundtable, and now we have our last guest, Xavier Maple.
Hey Xavier, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's very nice to be here.
So let's go into this season a little bit. You recorded 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups this year. What was going through your mind on those plays?
Be honest with you, it was kind of a blur, to be honest, right? When you're making plays out there, you kind of just, it's all about instinct, right? When you see the ball in the air, we're told to go get the ball. So it was definitely fun, enjoyable.
Now, as a DB, how do you prepare mentally for each play, especially knowing that the offenses are really what everybody's honed in on, but how do you prepare mentally to make that big play on the defense, whether it's the interception, the pass breakup, or try to strip the ball out for a fumble?
Honestly, I can't even say it was all me, right? Only way we're able to play defense if we play as a team, right? I was only able to get those interceptions because the defense applied pressure to the quarterback, allowed him to throw a lot of passing the ball, and I was able to get it right. So I think what it prepares me is that the whole team on the defense is all prepared, right? We're all knowing our assignments, and we're able to achieve our goal.
What would you say your strategy is when you're going step for step with the wide receiver down the sideline and trying to break up a pass or get that interception?
Honestly, I think it's about the technique I honed in on this whole summer, right? I played here my freshman year, 2023. I took a year off just to kind of collect myself, heal my injuries, right? And that whole summer, I was just working on technique. That was really what I was trying to hone on now. So when I'm running down the sideline with the wide receiver, I'm not panicking anymore, right? It's all about doing my job, staying low, and just doing the technique that I was taught.
Now, how do you focus on that, really, especially during the offseason? You know, you don't have the coaches saying, hey, work on this, work on this. How do you do that as a player outside of the football field?
Honestly, I think it takes just experience, right? I think I'm experienced enough to know what I need to be done and what I need to work on in the offseason, right? So I think, honestly, it just takes experience, knowing what needs to be done, so you can get the ball, get chances to play, just knowing stuff like that.
Now, when you go against a top wide receiver and a top team, what is kind of your mindset going into the week, and is there anything you do specifically knowing that you're facing a top guy?
Nothing really. I don't change anything based off my opponent. I honestly just read what he's giving me, and I react off that, right? I don't think anybody who lines up against me is going to be better than me. That's not the mentality you really want to go into football. You want to go into football with the mindset that you're better than your opponent so you can play your best football.
Now, you've made the immediate impact. What areas of your game have you really focused on during the offseason, during this season, and back when you were playing here freshman year?
I think the areas I wanted to focus on was my speed, right? I hurt my ankle a while back, so I kind of reduced my speed, so getting that be rehabilitated back to where I wanted to, right? I used to run track guy, ran a 10.8 in the 100, run like 22.0, so I wanted to get back at that speed coming into SU. And I think that's what I mainly focus on in the summer.
How do you stay focused? And really, I mean, it's got to be tough, right? You get banged up. That's what happens when you play football. It happens when you play any sport. So how do you stay toned in on doing those things and keeping that mental aspect out of it and really realizing, like, I'm going to continue to work my butt off week in and week out?
I think what drove me really to keep on trying my best is that the coaches, right? I was talking to the coaches the whole summer, right? They was really guiding me on what needed to be done so I can play. And that really drove me to really want to compete, right? Because I came here to SU to really provide something amazing, right? I didn't come here selfishly to think I'm the best. I wanted to come here to add something to the team. And knowing that if I was able to work on myself, work on my best ability, and I was able to provide something positive to the team, that's the motivation all I needed.
Now, how do you plan to build on your early success for big plays down the line, especially when you head into the postseason, hopefully in a couple of weeks?
Honestly, I think we just got to keep doing what we're doing, right? The opportunities are going to come. I'm not going to try to go out my way to do anything extra, right? If I do my job, the opportunity is going to come because that's what kind of the game script is for us, right? The game script is everyone does their job. Opportunities are going to come to you. You just got to wait for them to come and do your job.
Now, what's something about playing defensive back that, say, the average football fan wouldn't know?
I think what people don't realize is that, let's say you're in a zone, right, and there's a man coming your way. If the ball goes to that, I'm not necessarily supposed to be on that man, right? So people will see that and be like, oh, he got the ball caught on him. That's not necessarily what it is, right? We just got to guard our zone and play our best football and make tackles. And I think that's what people don't realize is that everyone has a different opportunity. Everyone has a different job on the football field. So when they see a big play happen, they're immediately going to the closest guy who was next to him and being like, okay, it was his fault, but that's not necessarily what it is. It's all a team effort. There's no one's fault. It's just we always got to do our best.
Now, would you say that you really do your best overall as a team? I mean, this defense has been a top defense in the Landmark for the last few years, and they've had success, and it showed on the stats. How do you continue to do that and continue to keep that throughout these last couple of years and down the line as well throughout your rest of your career here at Susquehanna?
I think what we have to maintain on is focus on our core values, right? Our core values as a football team is do your job and we'll win. Work as a team and we'll win. So I think focusing on that is the reason why we got this far in the first place, right? Because there was people before me who played at this school and their defense was good, right? Because they had those core values implemented. You just do your job as an individual, and when you do your job as an individual, you work better as a team.
All right, so we're going to do our last Susquehanna speed run of the year. You should feel honored. This is our last one of the year. So it's going to be a series of questions. We got about 10 questions for you, 10, 12 questions. You give a word, answer, sentence, whatever you'd feel. All right?
Yep.
Favorite part about playing defensive back?
Picking the ball off.
Biggest challenge you face in the secondary?
Tackling.
How do you prepare for top receivers?
Reading the film.
Favorite defensive play that you've made this season?
Probably my interception against Lycoming, that second one.
Would you rather an interception or a pass breaking? Which one feels better?
Definitely an interception because I got a chance to run the ball back for a touchdown.
Your favorite celebration you've done either in your high school career, college career, or Pop Warner career?
Probably when I was young. I had a nice one-handed flag football catch when I was very young. Very nice.
Your go-to pregame meal or postgame meal?
Actually, I don't eat before games. That's one thing. I know a lot of people do. I don't want to eat before games. So probably a little snack, a little Rice Krispie treat. I like Rice Krispie treats.
What's your postgame meal?
Postgame? I do like to eat a lot of postgame. I'll say like a big brisket.
Ooh.
I love eating after games.
Biggest area of improvement this season?
Definitely, I think my eye technique, like my eye discipline. That's something that people usually don't realize, is that when you have good eyes, you're able to track the man better. So my eye discipline.
Funniest teammate story?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Appropriate.
I would say the other corner, Romero. He's number 3 on our defense. He plays a lot of music before games, and he's played music that no one really understands. So he's alone in that one. That's a pretty funny story. He plays a lot of different music. So
how do you stay focused during a tough game?
Honestly, I think staying focused in the game, honestly, is just ignoring the bad plays, right? We're going to have bad plays. We're all human out there. So kind of eliminating that out your mind is something that we need to focus on. So I think that's one thing.
Favorite NFL or college defensive back? Not on your team.
Ooh. Okay. It's going to be funny, but Xavier Howard, because he got my name. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, does the name have a little bit to do with it?
Yeah.
And last one for you, one thing that people don't know about you.
That's a tough one.
Ooh, yeah. I like cooking.
Okay.
Ooh.
Pretty like.
You have to cook us a meal next time.
Yeah, I do love cooking. I cook all my Thanksgiving meals: mac and cheese,
Ooh.
sweet potatoes. So.
All right. We have to come over to your house. So thank you for listening to our final show of PA Pigskin Preview this year. We had women's basketball head coach Gabby Holko. We had Susquehanna cheer captain Kaitlyn Wagner. We had the 2025 graduate and former sports director Jaxson Purnell. And then we just had Xavier Maple from the football team. Make sure to tune in to our sports shows every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 9 to hear more. But I'm Brai, and tonight I was joined by Matt Kaufman. And let's get back to the Rockets of yesterday and today.